Hold on to your championship belts because what I'm about to reveal will absolutely destroy everything you thought you knew about WWE's backstage politics. Seth freaking Rollins, the Monday Night Messiah, the architect of destruction, has just been fired. Yes, you heard that right, terminated by General Manager Adam Pearce after launching the most vicious, most calculated, most career-ending assault on CM Punk that SmackDown has ever witnessed. This isn't just another storyline, this isn't another work. This is real corporate punishment that has sent shockwaves through the entire wrestling industry. Triple H is reportedly furious, backstage morale has hit rock bottom, and sources inside WWE are telling us that this decision came directly from the very top of the corporate hierarchy. The wrestling world is in absolute chaos right now, and if you think you know what really happened in that parking lot last night, you're about to have your mind completely blown. Quick question for you wrestling fanatics, what do you think was going through Seth Rollins' mind when he made the decision to attack CM Punk? Drop your theories in the comments below. Let me paint you the picture of exactly what went down, that is WWE management scrambling like never before. It was supposed to be a routine SmackDown taping, just another Friday night in the world of sports entertainment, but Seth Rollins had other plans so devastating, so personally motivated, that they've literally cost him his WWE career. The parking lot of the arena became a war zone when Rollins, dressed in street clothes and moving with the precision of a man possessed, ambushed CM Punk as he was leaving the building. But this wasn't your typical WWE parking lot brawl, this was personal, this was vicious, and according to eyewitness reports from production crew members, this was unlike anything they'd ever seen in their years working for the company. Rollins didn't just attack CM Punk, he systematically dismantled him with a steel chair, delivering shot after shot with the calculated precision that only someone with 15 years of professional wrestling experience could execute. The sound of steel meeting flesh echoed through the parking garage as Rollins unleashed years of pent-up frustration, jealousy, and professional resentment in what can only be described as a complete mental breakdown. But here's where it gets absolutely insane, and this is the part that WWE desperately doesn't want you to know. According to multiple sources within the company, this attack wasn't scripted, wasn't approved, and caught everyone from security to medical staff completely off guard. CM Punk was legitimately injured, requiring immediate medical attention for what's being described as potential concussion symptoms and multiple contusions across his back and shoulders. The moment Adam Pearce arrived on the scene and saw the carnage that Rollins had unleashed, his face went white as a sheet. This is a man who's dealt with countless backstage incidents, who's seen every type of wrestling drama imaginable, but even he was visibly shaken by the brutality of what had just transpired. Security footage, which WWE is desperately trying to keep from leaking, reportedly shows Pearce immediately calling for medical assistance while simultaneously reaching for his phone to contact WWE executives. Here's another question that's got everyone talking. Do you think Adam Pearce made the right decision firing Seth Rollins, or should WWE have handled this differently? Let me know your thoughts. The firing didn't happen immediately. Oh no, that would have been too simple for a situation this complex and politically charged. What actually went down was a series of emergency meetings that lasted until nearly 3 a.m., involving Adam Pearce, Triple H, several WWE board members, and legal representatives who had to assess the potential liability issues surrounding an unscripted assault between two of the company's biggest stars. Seth Rollins, meanwhile, was sequestered in his dressing room with WWE officials, reportedly pacing back and forth like a caged animal, alternating between defending his actions and expressing what sources describe as immediate regret about the severity of his attack. The man who's built his career on being the consummate professional, the reliable company man, had just thrown it all away in a moment of blind rage. The decision to terminate Rollins' contract came at approximately 2:47 a.m., delivered personally by Adam Pearce in what's being described as one of the most uncomfortable conversations in WWE history. Pearce, who's known Rollins for years and has tremendous respect for his contributions to the company, reportedly struggled to maintain his composure as he delivered the news that would end one of WWE's most successful careers. But the story gets even more explosive when you dig into why Seth Rollins snapped so completely. Industry insiders are revealing that the tension between Rollins and CM Punk has been building for months, stemming from Punk's return to WWE and the immediate push he received despite his 7-year absence from the company. Rollins, who carried WWE through some of its most challenging years, felt completely disrespected by the attention and opportunities being given to someone he viewed as a part-timer and corporate favorite. The breaking point allegedly came during a backstage segment earlier that evening, where CM Punk made what sources describe as a dismissive comment about Rollins' championship reign and his status within the company hierarchy. This comment, delivered in front of other wrestlers and production staff, was apparently the final straw that sent Rollins over the edge and set the stage for the parking lot confrontation that would end his WWE career. Question time: who do you think was more in the wrong here, Seth Rollins for the attack, or CM Punk for potentially provoking the situation? This one's got the wrestling community completely divided. The medical report on CM Punk's injuries paints a disturbing picture of just how far Seth Rollins went in his assault. Multiple chair shots to the back and shoulders, a potential concussion from being thrown into a concrete pillar, and what's being described as severe bruising across his torso and arms. WWE's medical staff worked for over an hour treating Punk's injuries, and there are serious discussions about whether he'll be cleared to compete at the upcoming pay-per-view event. What makes this situation even more devastating for WWE is the timing. With major storylines planned around both Seth Rollins and CM Punk, the company now faces the nightmare scenario of completely rewriting months of television programming while dealing with the potential legal ramifications of an unscripted assault between contracted performers. The creative team was reportedly in emergency sessions all weekend, trying to figure out how to explain Rollins' sudden disappearance from television without acknowledging the real-world circumstances that led to his firing. The locker room reaction has been equally explosive, with wrestlers reportedly split into camps supporting either Rollins or Punk. Veterans who've worked with both men are describing the atmosphere as toxic and uncomfortable, with many questioning whether WWE's backstage culture has become too competitive and personal. Some wrestlers are privately expressing concern that if someone with Seth Rollins' reputation for professionalism can snap this dramatically, it could happen to anyone. Triple H's position in all of this is particularly precarious, as he was the one who initially advocated for both CM Punk's return and Seth Rollins' continued push as a main event star. Sources close to the head of creative indicate that he feels personally responsible for the situation and has been working around the clock to manage the fallout while maintaining some semblance of stability in WWE's creative direction. The financial implications of Seth Rollins' firing are staggering when you consider his merchandise sales, his scheduled appearances, and the storylines that now need to be completely scrapped. WWE is reportedly looking at millions of dollars in lost revenue, not to mention the potential lawsuit that CM Punk could file if he chooses to pursue legal action for what essentially amounts to workplace assault. Here's a tough question for the WWE Universe: should CM Punk have seen this coming and done more to defuse the tension with Seth Rollins, or was he completely blindsided by the attack? Your perspective could change everything. The security footage that WWE is desperately trying to contain reportedly shows the attack lasting nearly 10 minutes, with Seth Rollins methodically and brutally dismantling CM Punk while security personnel struggled to intervene safely. The footage allegedly shows Rollins using not just the steel chair, but also the concrete barriers and even his own wrestling boots to inflict maximum damage on his former colleague. What's particularly disturbing about the footage, according to those who've seen it, is how calculated and deliberate Rollins appears throughout the assault. This wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment or a brief scuffle that got out of hand. This was a sustained, vicious attack that demonstrated a level of personal animosity that shocked even the most cynical wrestling industry veterans. The legal team at WWE has been working overtime to assess the company's liability in this situation, particularly given that the attack occurred on WWE property using WWE equipment during a WWE event. There are serious questions about whether the company could face criminal charges for failing to provide adequate security, especially given that tensions between the two wrestlers were apparently known to management beforehand. Adam Pearce's decision to fire Seth Rollins wasn't just about punishment, it was about damage control on a scale that WWE has rarely had to manage. By immediately terminating Rollins' contract, the company is attempting to distance itself from his actions and demonstrate to both CM Punk and potential legal authorities that they take workplace violence seriously, regardless of the perpetrator's status within the organization. The aftermath of the firing has been equally dramatic, with Seth Rollins reportedly cleaning out his locker room in complete silence while other wrestlers watched in stunned disbelief. Veterans who've worked with Rollins for years described the scene as heartbreaking and surreal, watching one of WWE's most reliable performers essentially end his own career in a moment of uncontrolled rage. Question for the comments section: do you think there's any chance WWE could reverse this decision and bring Seth Rollins back, or is his WWE career officially over? The wrestling world needs to know what you think. The ripple effects of this incident are already being felt throughout the wrestling industry, with other promotions reportedly reaching out to gauge Seth Rollins' availability and interest in continuing his career elsewhere. However, the circumstances of his departure from WWE, being fired for assaulting a colleague, may make him a toxic signing for any company concerned about their public image and workplace culture. CM Punk's response to the attack has been notably restrained, with sources indicating that he's focused primarily on his physical recovery and hasn't made any definitive statements about potential legal action. However, those close to Punk suggest that he's deeply disappointed by Rollins' actions and feels that the attack crossed professional and personal boundaries that should never be violated in the wrestling business. The creative team at WWE is facing an unprecedented challenge in explaining Seth Rollins' sudden absence from television without acknowledging the real circumstances of his departure. Current discussions reportedly involve everything from claiming he's injured to suggesting he's taken a leave of absence, but none of these explanations adequately address the long-term storyline implications of losing one of their top stars. Behind the scenes, there are reports of heated discussions between WWE executives about whether the company's current competitive culture contributed to this incident. Some are arguing that the pressure to maintain top positions and storyline relevance has created an environment where personal and professional conflicts can escalate to dangerous levels. The timing of this incident couldn't be worse for WWE, coming just weeks before a major pay-per-view event where both Seth Rollins and CM Punk were scheduled to compete in high-profile matches. The company is now scrambling to find suitable replacements and restructure entire storylines that were built around the conflict between these two superstars. Final question before we wrap up: what do you think this incident says about the current state of backstage politics in WWE? Are things getting too personal and competitive? Share your thoughts below. The investigation into exactly what triggered Seth Rollins' attack is ongoing, with WWE conducting interviews with everyone who was present during the backstage segment that reportedly set off the confrontation. Multiple wrestlers and production staff are being questioned about the specific comments that were made in the atmosphere leading up to the parking lot incident. The medical evaluation of CM Punk's injuries is expected to take several days, with WWE's medical staff working closely with independent physicians to ensure that all potential damage is properly assessed and treated. The severity of his injuries could ultimately determine whether this remains a purely internal WWE matter or becomes a criminal investigation involving local law enforcement. Seth Rollins' future in professional wrestling remains completely uncertain, with his sudden firing from WWE marking the end of one of the most successful careers in modern wrestling history. The man who once carried the company through difficult periods, who was trusted with championship reigns and main event storylines, has potentially thrown it all away in a moment of uncontrolled anger and personal resentment. The wrestling community's reaction has been swift and divided, with fans taking sides based on their loyalty to either Seth Rollins or CM Punk. Social media has exploded with debates about who was more in the wrong, whether WWE handled the situation appropriately, and what this means for the future of backstage discipline in professional wrestling. Industry veterans are calling this one of the most shocking incidents in WWE history, comparable to some of the most notorious backstage altercations that have shaped the business over the decades. The difference is that this incident occurred in the modern era, with corporate oversight, legal considerations, and public relations implications that make it far more complex than similar situations from wrestling's past. The long-term implications of Seth Rollins' firing extend far beyond just the immediate storyline changes and creative adjustments. This incident has exposed fundamental issues within WWE's backstage culture and raised questions about how the company manages interpersonal conflicts between its biggest stars. As this story continues to develop, one thing is absolutely certain: the wrestling world will never be the same after the night that Seth Rollins' career ended in a parking lot, and CM Punk became the victim of one of the most vicious unscripted attacks in WWE history. The reverberations from this incident will be felt for years to come, affecting not just these two superstars, but the entire landscape of professional wrestling. The truth about what really happened that night is still emerging, and as more details come to light, the full scope of this incident's impact on WWE and the wrestling industry as a whole will become clear. But one thing we know for certain is that when Adam Pearce uttered those two words, "You're fired," he changed the course of wrestling history forever. If you thought tonight's story was wild, trust me, what happens next will blow your mind. So don't stop now. Click on the video right here on your screen to continue the chaos, the drama, and the inside scoop only we deliver. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and join the wrestling newsletter family where the real stories of WWE come to life. See you in the next one.